This will be lesson 5 in my series on Gabriel music notation. And this will be on time values and how we understand the rhythm in music, which is equally important as the melody and the harmony, which we've already learned about in the previous 4 lessons. After all, the melody, the harmony, and the rhythm represents the divine Trinity. God the Father is expressed in the melody, God the Son in the harmony, but the rhythm expresses the Holy Spirit. So let's look and see how Gabriel music notation is actually very similar to traditional notation as far as time signatures go. Now these are the time signatures for traditional notation, and they have not changed in Gabriel notation. For example, for 4 time, there are 4 beats to a measure, just as in traditional notation, and a quarter note equals 1 beat. So let's take a look at where there is a difference between Gabriel notation and traditional notation. And that is that we do not change the time value by changing the color. In other words, let me move this down where the notes are actually played. This would be D. This would be a whole note. In other words, it's held for 4 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a half note. 1, 2. This is a quarter note. 1. This is an eighth of a note, so you would get 2/8 of a note in a quarter note. And for a 16th note, you would get 4 notes in a quarter note. So now let's look at the difference between the sharps and the flats in Gabriel notation. And of course, these represent the black keys on a keyboard. That's why they are black in color. So let's take a look at F sharp. And in the same way as with the white notes, this is a whole note. You hold it for 4 beats. This is a half note. 1, 2. Excuse me. 1, 2. Here is a quarter note. 1. Eighth note. 1, 2. And a 16th. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now here's the half, or I should say this is the flat shape. As you see, it's somewhat different than the sharp shape. And this would be B flat, A sharp, B flat, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2 and 1, 4 and 1. So that is basically the differences between Gabriel notation and traditional notation. Of course, the big advantage is that the black keys are represented by black notes. So let's take a look at an example from my book, All Keys Are Easy, which you can find on my website, thirdeaglemedia.com. And the best way to learn any piece is to pick a piece that you are familiar with. I'm sure most people here in the United States are well acquainted with America the Beautiful. And you play the top note, which is the melody. And in this case, it starts out as F sharp. I believe it's F sharp. I'm not sure the key signature. As I say in my book, I made all black notes sharps. Now for this note here, there is a dot behind the note, and that adds half the time to the note. In other words, a quarter note becomes, well, let's see, would be a quarter plus an eighth. In other words, the number of beats in the measure have to add up to 4. So if you use your hunt and peck method, which is how I expect you to learn, so that's very simple, and I would advise you to learn the melody for simple music like that, which you already are familiar with. So let's play the harmony. So I think it should be pretty obvious that Gabriel notation is not that much different than traditional notation. And the big difference is that the black keys are represented by black notes, the white keys by white notes. What a tremendous advantage that is. And there's only a slight difference between whole notes and half notes as far as the shape goes, but that is very easy to learn. That concludes Lesson 5 in my series on Gabriel music notation. You now have enough information, really, to at least hunt and peck every note and hold it for as long as it should be held in Gabriel music notation. And all it takes now is practice. As I say, that's how you get to Carnegie Hall. Now, in the next program, we will be looking at the differences between Gabriel staff and traditional staff. And we will begin to see just how much better and easier to learn Gabriel notation is than traditional notation.